Welcome to the Runna Podcast. I'm Coach Anya, an international marathon runner.
And I'm Coach Ben, and one of the co-founders of Runna.
Each week we'll be deep diving into the world of running, speaking to some inspiring individuals about their running journeys.
Runna is the #1 rated running coaching service worldwide. We help hundreds of thousands of people all over the world train for any running goal. And if you want to try out Runna for free, you can try it out using the code Runna Podcast, all one word, to get 2 weeks of free access to the Runna app.
Today on the podcast, we have the amazing Jake Williamson, who spoke to us about his sporting journey from starting out as a track runner to moving to professional football to the Hyrox world, where he actually set the open world record. He set up his own run club, which champions inclusivity and feeling comfortable around your sexuality in sport. Enjoy the episode.
Hey Jake, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. A little bit sleep deprived, but...
So you just flown straight back from Mallorca?
Yeah, got in last night and then had a 2-hour drive, so got in at like 12.
Well, thank you so much for coming over. I guess would love to start off with, what got you into fitness?
I'm the youngest of 3, so I don't think I really had a choice in terms of like fitness, and I just it just became kind of all consuming. I loved it. It was everything I ever did. All I've ever done is wake up and either run, play football, luckily enough to go skiing and do adventures like that, and then I had my older sister and my older brother who were, I wouldn't say they were like massively competitive, but they were good. So I was always younger, so I was always kind of like striving to be better and overachieve them. And they were quite good at like education, whereas I wasn't stupid, but I wasn't like there. So I used sport as my outlet.
And so basically just trying to keep up with your older brother and sister.
My sister had like all the sports school records at school and things, and I was like, I want records. Yeah, ever since a young age, yeah.
So did you start with running or football being your focus?
Football definitely from like young, but I was having this conversation. We were watching the Euros, and there was a few kids over and watching, and none of them actually watched the game. Like they were all outside playing and mucking about, but like they weren't like invested in watching the football. And we were talking about how it's such like a culture and like not even necessarily a stereotype, but just like lads football. And it was like, and I was like that as well. Like I did love it, and I still do. But yeah, football from a young age, because it's one of those things that everyone was talking about it, everyone was playing it, and it's again that competitive element. You want to be the best. But then probably 12, 13, like I don't really know why, but like running just became like such a huge part. Like I'd go to running training Tuesday, Thursday, track and field, and then there was literally like a group of 4 of us that were just friends running for decorum and treat, like into these like running meets. Like it's so rogue. And then did that pretty much up till the age of 16, and then football kind of took back over again.
And so was it always the kind of like track type of running, like doing the mile, doing 400s, or were you looking to do like cross country? Yeah,
you kind of do everything at school, don't you? Like you get thrown into it. And I remember my teacher basically was talking about maths, and I was like, I just was struggling a bit. And she was like, not everyone's good at academics, just go and run. And she was like some people are just born to run and do things like that, and that kind of always stuck with me. So cross country was always great. There was me and one of my friends, John T, who was just like so good, and we would always finish. Well, he would finish first and I would finish second. There was one time when he went the wrong way on one cross country race and I beat him, but other than that,
how much did you pay him?
Paid a marshal to put the cones the wrong way. And then I think track and field I was better, so I kind of naturally I drifted towards that and was doing 800 and 15, and there was a few other. I was quite a late developer, so I was never kind of like really good until I guess now. But even then, like comparing it to like pure running, I'm not that good, but I'm quite good for. I always use the excuse that I'm heavier than most runners, so that's why.
and I guess that kind of like cross-discipline approach, like using your running to be doing much stronger on the football pitch.
So it always benefited me football-wise. Like I was never actually that good technical-wise at football, but I'd go to any pre-season and we'd do the typical test, your Cooperfield run, so your 12-minute run, your bleep test, and every single event I would effectively wipe the floor with everyone there. So everyone was like, who's this guy? And then it kind of got well known. And then any pre-season or anything that I'd go to, I would always get picked, because you're obviously going to want someone like that who's in the midfield, who can just even if they're not that good, they can just run around and kick people essentially, and just be that.
Yeah.
You did get pretty good at football though, and you had like loads of opportunities thrown your way, didn't you?
Yeah, so I played again. COVID was like a big factor. Like honestly, I don't think I would have gone like pro or like been anything like superstar wise or anything like that. I think anyone that kind of was in the football world and stuff would probably know that, but it was always a dream, and I still kind of, even now I'm like, I really want to be a footballer. But I played first team at uni, which I went to Coventry Uni, and then I had trials at Inverness, went to Poland for a little bit, and then I was meant to move out to Chicago, and then COVID happened. So,
and that was when you started to dial up the cross training a bit more?
Yeah, I think even that's kind of when my Instagram really started for me anyway. Like I would film myself in the garden pretty much, and I'd train like 3 times a day, and I think that's like the biggest I've ever been as well. Like I just got huge because I was just training just crazy amounts just in the garden because there was nothing else to do. Like I look back at videos from like 4, 5, 6 years ago. It's literally 6 years ago, isn't it? 5 years ago from COVID.
Yeah.
Jesus. And I'd be like, bloody hell. So that's kind of when like the cross training started, and then I kind of got back into running as I moved out of my family home up to Birmingham, and that's kind of through a circuit of friends that I had. We all just became runners, and I mean they were all way better than me, but I would like, again, that competitive element, I'd chase them. So I was always running with like the best runners and then trying to lift against like the heavier lifters as well.
So was it an intentional decision almost to lean away from football as COVID came around, or was it just that because all training was cancelled, you explored other things and then never went back to it?
Yeah, things closed off quite a bit through COVID. Like I still tried to play, and then I had my like personal situation where I was coming to terms with my sexuality, which just was like a whole minefield in itself. So I was kind of going through that process. Football isn't necessarily the best place to be when you're in that kind of self mindset, let alone when you've got other external pressures where you might have to talk about it in the changing room and things. So I distanced myself a little bit in terms of like playing proper football, and just played on like a Sunday and things like that with my friends. And then I think when I moved, the biggest thing was when I moved to Birmingham was when like the running became like a huge part of my life. Like again, it felt like I was back when I was like 13, 14, 15, like Tuesday, Thursday track sessions, going and doing track and field meets and 800s, and I was like, what am I doing here? Why am I running around doing 800 meters at like 24 years old? But I haven't done a 800 meters this year, so I need to go.
It may almost be the case now that you've become, you must be the fittest you've ever been, right?
Yeah, I would say like football fitness is definitely different, but in terms of like fitness wise and running and lifting and hybrid. Because
it may well be the case that you put on your boots again now, and you could be doing the best football player you've ever been potentially.
Yeah, I texted my friend the other day actually, because I saw that you can like register players to play for you, and he'd registered me for the next coming season just for the Sunday team, and I texted him and said, have you got a game next week, because I'm down, but it's like pre-season now, so I might go and kick a ball about again, but the injury risk is just so high. Like even just like rolling your ankle a little bit, it just takes your whole training routine out of sync. So that's again another reason why I kind of stopped and went fully into the running, and was because I was training for London two years ago. So trained for London and just kept getting little niggles playing like Sunday football, and I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like,
so London Marathon was your first marathon?
First and only. Yeah, I've done ultra marathon.
How did London Marathon go?
It was good. I think I underestimated a little bit. I think like as I touched on earlier, like being a heavier runner, I kind of in training I trained up to like 20 miles, and I was like, right, I feel great. And then I literally was in India and played a little bit of football and like rolled my ankle like 3 weeks before, so I had like a really long taper, like worked quite well in a way. Went in and I was like, yeah, I'm going to crush this. Got through halfway in hour and 17 and thought, right, I feel great. And then literally the last 10K, I was like, am I allowed to sweat? Just like, I'm like, fuck. So yeah, that was pretty ropey. So yeah, I finished in 2:45, which I was happy with considering like first one. I think a massive thing with marathons is like experience is so key. Like if I reckon if I did like another 2 blocks back to back, I could probably get down to like sitting at your 2:30 to 2:35. Yeah,
like we've done park run and a few runs together, and you are an insanely good runner.
I try. Yeah, I would say like the short stuff is definitely my forte. So 815 is kind of, even the last 4 years, what I was training for, and then you kind of get distracted and see, probably through social media and things as well, like half marathons and marathons and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I've got 2 half marathons booked.
So when did you turn your eyes to Hyrox?
I had just done London, and before London, someone had sent me a Instagram clip of Hyrox, and they were like, "Oh, you'll be good at this," and I was like, "It looks all right." And then finished London, and I was like, right, I'm just going to book on. So I booked out to go to Barcelona and flew out there with very little training. Like, I train in that modality anyway, and then went out and won it, and I was like, "Oh, this is quite fun. Like, I like winning." So I was like, "Oh, this works." And it's like, I downplay it. Like, I train very hard in that modality. Like, I've not just gone in and been like, "Oh, I'm great."
And when you say that modality, you mean did a lot of like cross training,
running, lifting? Yeah. So I worked in the gym as a PT for 5-6 years alongside other things, and that was kind of like that CrossFit style, but with way more running base.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, this makes sense, and I know I can improve on this time and this performance and things, so I'll see where I can take it. And then it kind of just, as I joined, it kind of just went boom, 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 and I was like, let's run with it and see what happens.
Yeah.
And so is that now the main priority of your focus?
Yeah, I'm pretty all consumed by Hyrox. I think it's a bit of everything. I think the bit, like, no doubt, the opportunities that come with it.
Yeah.
The ability that, like, the position that I'm in, where I'm like, in the next 5 years I could be the best in the world, in my opinion, and a few others, I think.
Well, you got the open world records,
so you? Yeah, I mean, someone took it now, but the courses are a bit dubious. So it's someone did it in Berlin, which is like was like outside and running. So, but I mean, well done. But yeah,
sure, you just need to go to Berlin.
Yeah, exactly. This year I'll fly out and do that. But yeah, I'm all in. So I'm building up my running again now to try and get myself back to where I was, if not better, before Hyrox, and then also maintain the strength and the lifting.
And so for anyone listening who doesn't know what Hyrox is, can you tell us what all the different sections are between the runs and what Hyrox is?
I've done it so many times.
and then I also want to know, what's your favourite?
So it's 8k worth of running split up into 1k intervals. So you start with a 1k, and then you go into a 1k ski erg, which is like pulling down essentially. You just Google it, and then you run again. So after each station you run. So you then run again, and then you go on to sled push, which, depending on your gender and which category you choose to pick, so it's not based on your weight, you just choose whether you do open or pro.
Where pro being
pro would be
heavier weights.
The heavier weights would be 200 kilos, and then you run again, and then you pull the sled with a few bits of weights taken off, run again, burpee broad jumps, which is literally down into a burpee broad jump for 80 meters, run again. This is where I get confused. Then you row for a K, and then you farmer's carry, which is literally just holding 2 kettlebells and run 200 meters, run again, lunges with again, pro being 30 kilo sandbag for 100 meters, and then finish with the 100 wall balls. And then you're over the finish line, and you can just crawl on the floor.
So for anyone who hasn't done one, it does sound like a form of torture.
Yeah.
What of those different rounds is your favourite?
Probably the ski, because it's first and you feel great. Like the ski is quite fun, and you normally have a few people around, and you can kind of just take in the atmosphere, see how you're kind of feeling. Like, I think that's like for me that's a big indicator of like how I'm going to race, is like how I feel in the ski, but also then coming off it, and then I'm like, right, I can really race here, or I'm like, yeah, this is going to be a long hour.
Yeah.
and what's the worst? Or the hardest?
It's hard. Again, it's hard not to say the wall balls, because they are just like,
and they're last,
and they're just like.
And so this is, you drop down into a squat.
So you full squat and then fully extend, and you hit a target, which is, I think is 2 meters. And if you don't hit the target now, like bang on, you get a no rep. So you could end up doing like 100. I think I've done 115 wall balls once, which that extra 15 is like each one's like 2 seconds at least. And at that point, you're doing reps of 5 anyway, probably. I'd say the burpees is one that, if you don't master it, can completely like destroy you. Like it's pretty brutal and pretty tough, but you can train quite efficiently for it. So
I'm fascinated by Hyrox for like so many reasons, and I can probably waffle on about it now. One, the whole vibe and culture seems so good, and also I think a lot of people, we were actually just talking about it, but a lot of people get into fitness for like you want to become a really small person, and that's why you get into running.
Yeah.
But Hyrox is just about like how strong you can be, and it's like it seems so much more.
I think whatever reason you have for fitness, it kind of complements in a way. So like even if you're just like a gym goer, like it gives you an element of competition. If you're looking to lose weight, what better kind of thing to lose weight? You're lifting weights and you're also adding elements of running into your exercise, and it's kind of that like disguised running, disguised lifting. Obviously I know you're in a lot of pain, but it's like that you're training for something. Like you're not just going to the gym, and just like a lot of people have that like fear essentially of going to the gym and you don't really know what to do, you don't really know how to do it, and it's like this is very simple. Like you've got 8 stations and you've got 8 runs. All the stations are pretty basic. Like you don't have any skill factor to them. It's purely just hard work. So I think it's just like a perfect blend, which is why it's just general population wise it's just gone like through the roof. Like it's just crazy. I think they're predicting over 500,000 competitors this year, which is nuts. And there's also like a massive wait list for loads of other comps. So like that's kind of where they're at.
And it's just so much more accessible than some of the, I don't know, previous versions or adaptations of the sport. You look at CrossFit, for example, and like I used to do the open where basically anyone can enter, and I did it at uni, and I didn't have a uni gym that had all the right equipment. So I'd be like adapting the workout so that I could like doing clean and press despite using like plates you weren't allowed to drop, and then like you'd have to do like double unders, which is skipping where you go under twice, and I wasn't able to do that, so I'd have to like adjust the workout.
And then you can't technically compete.
Exactly. So like by then Hyrox being all the movements don't need that level of skill makes it so much more accessible to the kind of general population, like you said.
I think that's probably why eventually it'll probably get bigger than CrossFit. Like I love CrossFit. I think it's like as a spectator sport and as like elite athletes and people that are like just the fittest humans on the planet, it's incredible. But there is that factor. Like even I can't go in and do a lot of the CrossFit movements, mostly because I haven't trained the skills.
Although at the same time, I think a lot of those athletes, presumably, like despite being able to lift bigger weights with more skill, they wouldn't be able to keep up with you running.
No, they're all about 5'5" and absolutely tonk. There's definitely a CrossFit build for sure. I mean, there's a few anomalies, but like Hyrox is definitely like, I would say more that hybrid style for sure, like running wise.
And I think it's like a encapsulation of health. Because like at the end of the day, if we're doing marathon runners who do nothing other than run, we're not going to be that strong, and we're not going to necessarily be as healthy. Whereas I think
even you look at Joe Skipper, like one of the best triathletes on the planet, came and did Hyrox, and I wouldn't say he got humbled, but like the sleds were so heavy that for someone who's run a 2:34 marathon in Wales, after
and so I think in context, Joe Skipper, he's got the male Ironman world record in the UK.
I would say probably
I believe
the UK,
so.
yeah.
He's
on that scale of like
he's
athlete.
right at the top of UK Ironman,
so,
and
like,
he came and did Hyrox. And how did he get on?
I mean, he didn't do badly. Like he's still an absolute weapon of an athlete. But there's like it's kind of just that as an example of like it's such a blend of strength and running. Like you couldn't just be a marathon runner. Like you could get by and you could run a decent time, but it's like a complete cross of.
And so I guess like you're right at the top of the sport. What does a normal week or month's training look like for you?
At the moment, I'm probably sitting at about 14-15 hours a week of training. So morning would be like run to the gym session. So like a Monday would be strength, and then run back from the gym. So that would be like a 5K run in the whole session. And then in the evening would be like I go to Forders, which we may touch on a bit, which is a Hyrox gym that I train at, and that's like a full Hyrox session. So that's like an hour. So that's like say 3 hours on a Monday. Tuesday would be kind of a bit similar, probably strength or more like S&C work, mixed modality stuff in the morning, and then track session in the evening. Wednesday, more of like a threshold, so like focus on a run, like a decent run session. Thursday, depending on how I feel, rest, maybe like a light jog, flush out run, I would call it. and then Friday again. Friday, Saturday, Sunday can all kind of cross and blend, and then there's one long run in there as well. So about 65k worth of running a week, and then
so a lot.
Yeah, like I don't need to do. I could do a bit more, but I don't really need to.
So is running your strength, and therefore the thing you don't need to do as much of, or?
I think it's such a social aspect for me. Like 90% of my life, social-wise, is through running. Like a lot of the time I lift and do all that kind of stuff on my own just because I like to, and it's just how it works for me. Whereas the running is like I run to the track with someone, we do the track session, and then it's just like this big kind of social event. So
I guess that brings us on to your run club that you started, your brand, BTND.
My baby.
Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so that kind of came from, not necessarily, it's not all about being a gay athlete and things like that, but it was one of those things where I've experienced it a bit, in particular in the football world, and even like within Hyrox and gym spaces, like I'm quite confident and openly gay and comfortable within my sexuality, but I wasn't always. So like there was even times where I like couldn't even say the words. So I know how difficult it is to kind of go to these places or run clubs or things and be like not really be yourself in a way. Like, so I created the name actually comes from me and my partner Paul. We used to message the letters BTND if we had like leftover food the next day, like lasagna for example, and we would text the letters just to check in because half the time we're like ships in the night. So we would text each other BTND as if better the next day, and then it kind of like evolved into like, right, what are you doing that's going to make you better the next day? And then it was like that mindset of like, right, what am I going to do physically but mentally to make me better as a person, but also better mentally. So whether it's talking about your sexuality or going to the gym or being a bit more open in terms of conversations with your relationships, and like just every different thing can fit quite nicely, and it's kind of this like nice big little banner of whatever it looks like to you, that's your BTND essentially. So and then I live up in Birmingham, and there wasn't really anything kind of like community based wise. Like you see London and it's like run club, Hyrox session, fitness class, and I was like, why isn't there more in other cities and other places? So I was like, let's do it. So it was actually quite nice. It was in January when we started, and I was like, no one's going to even turn up to this. Like, it's January, it's cold, it's raining. Put out a thing saying, look, going to do this. Lululemon thankfully put a bit of money in and got us some backpack speakers, which are great. And then we bought some like glow up lights, and it was pitch black, and we were running through a park, and it was actually quite nice because a lot of females wouldn't even run in the park ever at night, and for me, I didn't even think about that at the time. But 120 people turned up to like the initial event. I was like, whoa, this is sick. And we all had glow sticks, and we were running around, and it was just like, I was like, okay, yeah, that was cool. But it shows that like if you create a space in the community and it's welcoming, like people will come. Like people are looking for these spaces, and it doesn't matter whether there's 1 or 100. And you don't even need to have a niche. You just need to be like a good group of people, and people will turn up and show up. So I think the biggest thing was I was like, right, even if 10 people turn up, even one other person turns up, like you're creating a safe space for that one person. So, and then luckily 120 odd people turned up, which was wicked. And now we sit at about like 60 odd on a Wednesday night in Birmingham, and we have one in Clapham, one in Amsterdam, one in Nottingham, and one in New York, which is really cool.
So they all happen every week?
So they all happen every week, a few different days. So Clapham is a Tuesday, so tonight. I don't know when we're meant to be filming this, whether it's...
Yeah, no, that's all right.
Wednesday is Birmingham, Amsterdam, and Tuesday is also Nottingham. So Wednesday's Birmingham and Amsterdam, and then New York happens on a Sunday.
So it must be quite surreal having this almost become bigger than yourself now.
Yeah, essentially, like it's never really been me. Like I've tried to kind of like, yeah, it helps. Like you have the social following, and you can kind of help to influence and grow it through that. But like, it's not about me. Like I've essentially got to a position where I'm comfortable within my sexuality. I'm good at sport. Like I'm in this position. I want other people to have that as well. So that's why I did it. And then I can completely distance myself and be like when you put on a piece of BTND clothing, or whether you join the BTND app, or whether you come to one of the run clubs, I want you to feel comfortable within who you are as a person, whether it is your sexuality, your race, your gender, your disability, or whatever it is, just as a person, I want you to feel comfortable putting that on and feel proud to be a part of a community or whatever community that you feel a part of, which is hopefully what we've done, which is quite nice.
I think you have. I think you're a safe space for so many people. Like, people seem to, like, just for everybody, but also people looking for more inclusivity in sport. Like, they can message you, I see on Instagram, like, all the time with just questions that they maybe wouldn't know who else to ask.
Yeah, I love my Q&As. it can get a bit rogue sometimes, especially when I do the sex education ones for anyone that doesn't follow or get involved. Like, it's fun for people to listen to. Like, I have a lot of my like straight friends be like, oh, whoa, I never even thought that would even be like a question. And I try and answer a lot of them, that some of them are way too beyond for social media. But I try to answer them in like a candid way and a safe way that people can like feel accepted, because like sex is great. Like, we all do it. We all, like, it's all part of, and even like from when I wasn't out, like, I wasn't able to have that. I wasn't able to experience that, what love is, what touch feels like, essentially. And I was like, how do we get other people to feel comfortable enough to just live like what life is about, essentially? So that's why I do it, and it is quite funny sometimes. So
Hey guys, just a little note from us. Anya and I are so excited that we managed to hit the #1 spot in the UK in the running podcast charts. So as a little bit of a thank you to all of our loyal podcast listeners, we managed to organise 15% off all of our Runner merchandise. So head to the Runner website, and if you use the code, all one word, all caps lock, MyFastSocks, you'll get 15% off any of our items on the store. So thank you for listening, and go and enjoy, go and get your hands on some Runner merchandise. And what do you think it is about Hyrox or running or this community that makes it feel so much more accepted than football previously? Or is it the case that Hyrox is this new unstructured thing that you're almost helping to create the tone of the sport?
I think that is a big factor. I think the fact that it's a new sport and it's kind of like a new generation of sport where we are in a better position, whereas you look at football, like the culture, like even my dissertation was on the policing strategies and like hooliganism around Stamford Bridge as a football club. So like I've got the experience and I kind of understand like it's a huge cultural shift. Like you look at different countries, for example, and their cultural and religious beliefs and things like that. Like there's so much. It's such a like it's huge. Like you can't really go into be here all day if we went into it. But that's kind of like where football's at. There's so much culture. There's so much aggression, essentially, and there's so much masculinity. Yes, Hyrox has a lot of masculinity. Like you're trying to be like the fittest human being on the planet, but it's a new sport. And I would like to think that me being in it from such an early stage and being so kind of open about my sexuality and also being kind of at the top and there and thereabouts helps quite a lot. But yeah, I think
it's also like even within the sport, the way that it's designed for women as well. I think like historically football's been an extremely male dominated sport, and even today it still is. And I mean, like even looking back at CrossFit as well, I think they always had the same prize money for men and women. Is that right?
I think they did.
And like little things like that of like almost like a modern sport can then be designed from the ground up in the right way.
Yeah, I think the guys at the top have done it. I mean, they even started the sport off as being like Hyrox for everyone. So it's like, I mean, there's a few things that aren't for everyone, and like you can't necessarily do it for everyone. So when you do have that motto and that mindset, I do think you have to kind of deliver on those things. Like I'm going to do a bit of a piece around it, but I'm doing a Hyrox with my friend Charlotte, who's in a wheelchair, and they haven't got the disabled categories yet. And it's like, I know it's a new sport and it takes time, but it's like you have to let these people like compete. Like she can take part and she can do the event, but there's a difference between taking part and competing. So there's a few elements.
What you mean by that is at the moment there's no category for her to compete with it.
Essentially, yeah. So she can't go on the podium, she can't celebrate a victory or get a PB or get a time that's like given to her, essentially. I
guess all of that does come with maturity. I guess presumably there's also only gendered categories at the moment as well.
Yeah.
I think with these things, like you're completely right. They need to be delivering on these things as fast as you can. But at the same time, it's also a new sport.
You need someone essentially to like fight the corner.
Yeah.
But I also to understand that like it's a new sport. It takes time. But if someone's not kind of knocking on the door, things are going to be a lot slower.
You where you are can also help. Drive the sport forwards.
Yeah. That's my plan, is just to help essentially. Like not do it in like there's no like anger or malice or anything. I just want everyone to feel like they can partake and do things the right way.
And does that mean that knowing that football isn't that, it almost like takes away your love of it and you're now content where you are and you don't want to play football, or is there still a love of...
I miss the feeling, for sure.
Of what, playing on the sport?
Yeah, like scoring a goal
Yeah.
or like pass, like just even little, like just doing a great pass, and you're like, yeah, like that thing. And also like, because I was good at it, like you almost had that level of like, your chest was a little bit bigger, like you like what, like you felt like,
Well, the cool kids at school play football.
Exactly, like you felt like that. And so I think like I do miss that feeling a little bit, but it's been so long out of my life now that it's like, it's kind of just like,
and now you can go and do some great passes at five-a-side.
Yeah, exactly.
Your Sunday league with your mate, and
just rock up and
dominate because you can have twice the bigger chest than everyone else.
Yeah, I do miss it a little bit, but it's life, isn't it? Like you move on, and I'm fully focused on Hyrox, and hopefully within the next 5 years I can take the crown.
I guess to really speak to the testament of the type of athlete you are, you did 100k recently with a water bottle.
Why did you do 100k? I remember seeing it on my social media being like, that's so right.
I work a little bit with Threshold, which is like the running event organisers and ultra marathons and things. And they text me and was like, John, this was ages ago, they text me, because I did the 50k last year, and they text me and was like, do you want to do the 100? I was like, oh yeah, why not? Just like, yeah. And I forgot my running vest. It was in my car, but then we were taking a different car because we went to Love Trails for the 2 days before. And then I got to Charlie's house and I was like, I don't know, my vest. I was like, and I knew that the aid station, like I made it look like fun on social media, but there was like 8 aid stations, so there was plenty of.
So for context, who haven't seen, you lined up at the start of 100k holding
just a water bottle,
and
everyone around me was like,
you're in running shorts and a water bottle.
Yeah.
And so, how far apart were the aid stations?
The biggest one was at, I think at 70k. The next one was 88k. So we had 18k.
So you're pretty much then doing a half marathon with
each
nothing.
time with nothing. Yeah.
And so at the aid stations, you're just nailing a few snacks and having some
water?
water?
Electrolytes in the bottle, and
then you'd run carrying
with
the little bottle filled up.
The bottle started and finished.
And so before that, what was the longest you'd ever ran?
I did a 60k practice run 2 weeks before.
Okay. And how did the 100k go?
It was all right. The worst thing is after, like my I've got a little like stress response in my right foot, so I've not ran too much since. But the actual day was fine. Like, I actually think it was easier than like the marathon. It's just a long period of time, and also like I was running with people, and I was like, it's not that much. Like 10 hours is a long time for conversation. So we had a few bits where it was a bit quiet, but no, it's fun. I recommend it to.
And were you just trying to complete the distance, or were you trying to be competitive?
I wasn't trying to be competitive in terms of place, because I knew like that race was quite competitive. Like someone finished it in like 7 hours, which is just crazy. And it's like 1,400 meters of elevation, and just like, that's just silly. But I did set a goal of sub 10, which I got.
Amazing.
Nice. And would you do a 100k again?
I'm in no rush.
No. It's kind of like ticking off.
Yeah, like this is kind of like off season for Hyrox, so.
And you don't want to get distracted.
I don't want to get injured, like I had kind of have done, and I don't want to get too distracted. Yeah.
The like endorphins and the sense of achievement you get after a race, like a running race, how different is that from how you feel at the end of a Hyrox? Are they similar, or do they feel worlds apart to you? Do you actually enjoy running?
Like that. I was actually like depressed for the next 3 days
after that.
Yeah, like I was like in like a really bad place.
Because people get post-marathon blues and things.
Yeah, like I was I ran with a guy called Jude, and because he did the 100k last year, and I texted him this year and said, do you want to do it again? So I got him a place and we ran it together. And halfway around he was like, yeah, I like last year I really struggled for like a week. And I was like, I won't struggle, I'll be fine, I'll run again like the next day thinking, and I didn't run. And I was like, yeah, I'm like pretty rough. But then I put a post out and I was like, yeah, I am really struggling, but I'm doing all the things, like what I say on BTND, like I'm doing all the things that I know will make me feel better, be better. And then within 2 days, I was back to my normal self.
And presumably, like, a huge part of that blues or sadness that comes afterwards is that you're not getting the endorphins that you get from training on a regular basis? Like, do you mean you train as hard as you do? It's such a big part of your life, as it is to yourself and me too. Like, you take that away because you have to recover after doing 100 kilometers. You're going to have a bit of time on your hands and you're going to lose the endorphins, both of which coupled together make us feel a bit funny.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Like, I just didn't, I wasn't able to train because I physically needed to recover. Like 100k is like crazy. Like, you probably needed 2-3 weeks realistically. I took 1 week, but I couldn't cope any longer, so I had to go and do a workout and I actually did some hot yoga, which was quite nice.
Well, I think it really does just go to show, like, for people who don't try Hyrox or don't like dabble in these different sports, just how strong the athletes are at the top of these sports, so they can just throw their hat in the ring and do 100k on a whim and like doing.
I think that's it. With like Hyrox, I would say that most people at the top of their game would probably like to think they can take part in any fitness event and do well. Like, I could probably go and do a triathlon and compete within, like, I wouldn't say I would be any like good, because swimming and cycling is like, again, you need time under tension and stuff. But I would like to think that I could go into any form of competition event and I'd like to think I can win. But
that is it though. Like, running is so different, because I remember, like I've run with you, or like Hunter, who's one of the best like Hyrox guys in the world. He came to one of our track sessions, and all the boys were like, "Yeah, like we're going to be faster than him. He's like huge," and he was an absolute machine. And they all were very humbled, and they were these little boys, and they were just like, "Oh my god!"
Running is its own thing. And I sometimes think to myself, I'm like, I don't think I could ever run a sub 30-minute 10k. Like, I look at people like Nico Young, who's just qualified for the Olympics and he's about to race, and you're in like a 26-minute 10k, and I'm like, that's an athlete. But then I also look at like what we do in Hyrox, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that is I am an athlete. Like, I am very good at that. But yeah, so I look at runners and think, wow, like a 12-13 minute 5k is just like obscene. So I'm trying to get there. But
what would you say, looking back, is your greatest sporting achievement to date?
But it wasn't individual, but we just did the relay for England at Nice and we won, which was like insane. Like, I don't think many people expected us to win, because
is that Hyrox?
In Hyrox, yeah. So we just basically, the relay format is you have 4 people, and what Hyrox introduced this year was like an elite mixed relay. So you have 2 males, 2 females, and you do 2 of the runs and 2 of the stations, and you can split it up however you want. And we went on, it was the final event of the weekend in France, and I started off and was against Hunter, the guy Anya just spoke about, and did a 1k run into a 1k ski, and it hurts like a lot. Like, you're just maximal effort, and I came off like 3 seconds behind him, so I was pretty happy with that. Do you know what your 1k time would have been for that? Well, I actually ran the first lap on a Hyrox is always a bit longer. I think off like guesstimate and like how I felt, I reckon it was like a 2:45. Wow. Into a whatever the ski was, like an average of like 1:39 on the pool. I think you're kind of inspiring me, as are a few other people pestering me to go and do a Hyrox. But I think I'm going to be pretty humbled, given that. I mean, there's no way I would do that across a full Hyrox. That's purely like a maximal effort. Like, but then you're still doing a 1k ski afterwards. So 2k, yeah. So it's like that. Yeah, I would say the 2:45 was almost like you have to rein it. Like, you have to rein yourself in a little bit. Like, a lot of the guys like went out a little bit ahead of me, and I was like, yeah, you're in trouble here, because by the end they were like on the ski putting like. And so this relay in Niche, that was all the different countries against one another in their team. So there was 20 countries, of which the Hyrox has been held, I think, was like the format. So 20 countries. So yeah, it was England, USA, then Germany on the podium. I'm earmarking towards Switzerland in February, which I'm tempted by. Yeah, I might come out and do that one. I saw that recently. What would be your number one tip for someone getting into Hyrox for Ben, starting his Hyrox? I would say patience. Like, even I struggle with that. Like, I've been speaking about it recently with like coaches and things like that. It's like, if you're running a marathon, like, you're not just going to go in and run your first marathon and be really good. Like, you have to do the building blocks. You have to do your S&C work. You have to set the foundations. Like Hyrox is like exactly like that, but if not more, because you've got lifting, strength, and you've got running, and you've got compromised, and you've got burpees, and you've got everything else. So I think like patience, set the foundations really well, and try not to be like drawn into the quick wins, which is easy to do, because I mean you would go and you would do a Hyrox and you do really well, but there's a difference between, if you wanted to anyway, and competing and getting to the top, there's a difference between competing well and winning like a race and in Switzerland, and which looks great, but there's a difference between like that and then taking off like 10 minutes and being like in and amongst it with the elite field. And I'm not there yet, but I'm setting the foundations and trying to do that right, and trying not to try and chase the quick wins. Like, yes, I can go and run a race and do really well, but against these guys who are the best, it's just another level above. So it's like, be patient. And
I guess coming back to you, like, what would be your goal? Like, what do you want to achieve in the next 5 years?
I have like a good network around me. Like I was like a bit mind blown, to be honest. I just went out to Malibu and trained with Hunter for a couple of weeks. And he's the best in the world. He's been in this kind of sport, OCR, obstacle course racing and things like that for the last 10 years. And he's at like the peak of the game. And he's got 9 years on me. So I know that I've got time to like get better. So my plan is within like the next 5 years, if Hyrox continues to grow the way it is to be at the very top. Continue with the relay stuff, because I think that'll be really cool. Hopefully do some doubles, and then individual wise be at the best.
And how old are you now?
26 in 2 days.
Nice.
Ooh, happy birthday, 2 days.
Happy birthday. Well, with that in mind, we're going to send our segue over to Steph, who's going to come in with our tip of the week.
My top tip today is on rest. Now, let's be honest, not all of us runners embrace a rest day, but these are really, really essential for helping us get faster and for reducing our chance of injury. If you follow our runner plan, we will factor these in for you. But don't be afraid to take the odd rest day here or there that isn't planned. If you feel you need it, it's really important that you take it to get the benefits of your training in the long term.
Thank you for that, Steph. We have now got a myth debunking discussion from one of our users, which Coach Ben will give his insight on, and you can add anything that you think is valuable too. There is a big debate in running and a lot of noise wearing carbons, and why can't you wear them for easy runs, or should I not be wearing them for easy runs?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess carbon shoes, for those who don't know, with carbon plate in our shoe, naturally the heel is higher than the toes, which is going to help propel us forward, and they kind of say return your energy with each step. So it's going to help you to run faster. Naturally, by doing so, we're then relying on this carbon plate to absorb some of the impact of each step and then propel ourselves forwards. Where we've evolved as a body to have muscles and all these tiny bones in our feet and our ankles to absorb the impact of every step. And then propel ourselves forwards. So if we do all of our training without using the body that we've been designed for, we're going to end up having weak feet, weak ankles, and ultimately slightly adjust the way that we run as well, which is going to lead to weakness and then relatively long-term more likely to get injured. Obviously, a lot of us, and I'm sure all three of us, are competitive people, and we want to use these advantages to some extent. And so I'm going to do every race forevermore as long as they're legal in carbon shoes. But we shouldn't do all of our training in carbon shoes, because we're going to have weak feet, weak ankles. There is also one other point, which is that they're very flimsy and expensive. So you will also then wear out your shoes a lot faster as well. But so my recommendation, if we're purely thinking about it from a what's optimal training perspective, would be to do most of our running in non-carbon shoes. Because ultimately you're going to work your body a little bit harder. But at the same time, we should also practice running in carbon shoes. You will run a little bit faster. You're going to have your heels slightly higher than your toes, which is going to affect your Achilles and other muscles in your body. So making sure that we're practicing run at these speeds. And then also when we're going into a marathon or going in to do any event, we should make sure we're not wearing a new pair of shoes for the first time. So I'd say a few speed sessions in your carbon shoes, otherwise most of your training without, and maybe also getting a long run in the build up towards your marathon in your carbon shoes. But otherwise you want to keep them pretty fresh. Also, these carbon shoes are so flimsy. If we use them all the time in training, they're going to have used up some of that advantage and then not help us out as much. So hopefully that's helpful from both a training perspective, but then also from a racing perspective. Anything either of you guys would?
No, I'd say you're bang on. I'd say pick your sessions, especially in the build up to. I mean, ideally you only really need the carbon shoes, they say, if you're going to be racing or if you want to be running like a quick PB or something like that. So I would say pick your sessions, as you said, and then don't do every single session in them. And the biggest thing is probably how expensive they are as well. So
I mean, what I'll do, and I know you do this as well, is that like once we've got a carbon shoe that maybe we've used for a few races and it's probably not as fresh anymore, it can then become your training carbon shoe. So I would like retire a race shoe into being your training shoe longer term.
Destroy them.
Yeah, exactly. To the point where it doesn't matter if they look like shit and they're being absolutely battered. They're still going to be a productive thing to use in training, but then get a box fresh pair.
Yeah, for sure.
For your race. And then once you've used that a few times, then it can become your training pair.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, well, coming on, we're going to go on to our this or that. So we're going to share a few silly questions. You've got to pick the outcome of which you prefer. So, first one, would you rather run and train every session for the rest of your life topless, or never ever be allowed to run or train without your top on?
Topless.
Topless forever.
That's really, I'm very well, mostly because I'm just really warm.
Yeah.
Like I sweat a lot, so I don't really like clothes.
Even on a cold winter's day.
Yeah.
Out the door, topless.
Yeah.
Fair.
What would you do, Ben? Because you've got like topless run as well.
Don't think about me. I probably do more. I probably do about 30% of my running topless at the moment, but there is nothing nicer than in the sun topless run. You just feel so like free.
Imagine you had to wear like full on like clothes in like today.
I don't know if I'd feel a bit like, the only thing is like when you come to do like a marathon, you then like
you'd have to pin
it onto
your skin,
pin it straight through the nipples.
Shorts.
Yeah, you could put it on the shorts. I think I probably would go clothed, but then I'd wear like tank tops and stuff. But I do love
straight like a mesh.
Yeah.
Shall I ask the next one?
I did have to get the runner tattoo so that when I run without a top on, I'm still representing the brand.
Nice.
You know, got to go above and beyond. Okay, right. Next one. Do you want to ask
I can do the next one. Okay, Jake. Would you rather only be able to drink water and chocolate milk forever, or you can have any drink but never chocolate milk again, and that includes hot chocolate?
Oh,
I had a pint of chocolate milk last night.
I rarely don't have a chocolate milk a day, so that would be really, really tough for me. I
think in the winter you need a hot
but then
drink.
like after a session, there's nothing better than just like a ice cold fizzy drink, like a fizzy Coke or like a Lucozade.
I thought you were going to say there's nothing better after a session than a cold chocolate milk.
Yeah, but no, a chocolate milk I just have that whenever. No, I'd probably go any drink as much as that would. Yeah, I'd put any drink.
I think I might go water and chocolate milk for life. I do like a chocolate milk.
Yeah, that would be sad.
I don't care about chocolate milk.
You don't
I'd
care?
never have it.
I love it.
Chocolate milk. I think we're quite similar. You know.
Yeah.
Beefier runners who like chocolate milk. Well, okay, last one. Would you rather rename Roxy as Hyroxy, or rename yourself legally as Jake the Sheriff?
Jake the Sheriff. I actually pretty much every day I see Roxy, I'm like, hi Rox. I'm literally saying hi Rox every single day. So I would probably change Roxy's name to Hyrox.
Is Roxy named after
No,
Hyrox?
no.
I was going to ask you this.
It was before I ever did a Hyrox. She's a Red Fox Labrador, so it just kind of made sense. She was actually I say we rescued her. I mean, we paid a lot of money for her, but someone couldn't look after her anymore, so we looked after her. She was originally named Summer, but I have a friend called Summer, and we're like, right, we're going to change the name because we're going to give her a nice new fresh start. And then Red Fox rocks. So there's probably about 100 million Red Fox Labradors called Roxy, but call her. Yeah, every day I pretty much say hi.
That's so funny, Hyrox.
Yeah,
that is
funny,
amazing.
Fantastic. Shall I go on to our embarrassing story, which has been sent in, and we'd love to know, Jake, if you have any embarrassing stories.
And anyone listening at home who wants to send in their embarrassing stories, send them to podcast@runner.com or send us a voice note on Instagram.
Amazing. Okay. During a cross-country race back in high school, I wanted to impress the fastest girl in our year. I had fancied her forever. I gave it my all to catch her at the front. Panting, sweating and sniffling, I just about managed to run alongside her. I had to clear the old nose, and the only way to do that whilst running is a snot rocket, of course. I couldn't possibly drop back because I'd never catch up with her again. Before I could change my course of action, I realised my mucus was headed straight towards her. It was like it happened in slow motion. I blew, we locked eyes. It was horrific. Now, if I'm without a tissue, I always look both ways twice before blowing.
So this guy has fancied this girl, sprinted after her, and then blown his nose in her
That
face.
is quite a good way to break the ice. I think her reaction would kind of like dictate how you would feel about her as well. Like if she,
I don't think she's not going to be like,
I think
love that.
I think if she liked you back, it wouldn't be a big issue.
But I think no matter how much she fancied him back, like she's not going to do anything other than be disgusted.
Yeah, it's pretty rogue.
He's literally overtaken her and then just blown his nose in her face.
Yeah, I do love it.
I would like to hear a follow up. Like, are they now madly in love?
Are they married with kids?
Yeah.
Snot babies.
Snot babies. I actually had a similar instance in the lockdown, which is when like during snot was
you weren't allowed to snot.
You're not allowed to snot.
Yeah.
And I was cycling my bike in Richmond Park, head down, riding really hard, and someone had cycled up behind me and like was just going in my draft, and I didn't notice. And I just like snot rocketed, smacked them in the face.
On the
And I
visor.
was so embarrassed because there's a time where like
That's literally
germs.
illegal.
And I was like, I'm so sorry. And he was literally like wiped off his face and then like
crashed.
and then just like got left behind. So I couldn't even like apologise. He was gone.
Did he? Has he ever reached out?
I don't know. He can.
I've had someone like spit on me in Richmond Park on bikes.
Maybe it was you. Were you behind me? Did you get a snot on your face?
Quite recently.
Wow. Well, I would love to hear about the rest of their love story.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've got any. I must have an embarrassing story.
Yeah,
Can't think of one.
Well, you escaped lightly. Well, our final question of the Runner podcast is pretty embarrassing. So you're on the start line of your next London Marathon. You're completely naked, and you can bring 3 things, and only 3 things. What are your 3 things?
Can I bring clothes?
Well, each item of clothes would be an item.
Oh.
So you can choose.
Well,
how important are clothes to you? Do you mean you could bring like a book if you like books, but you probably don't need that for the marathon? You could bring sun cream. You could bring a top.
Maybe.
But we know you're not bringing a top.
I could. I'm not allowed to wear a
bring
top.
chocolate milk.
Maybe I would bring maybe just some like budgies and then try and break the record for the fast. I reckon that's pretty quick though.
Okay, so budgie smugglers
And some shoes at least.
carbon shoes.
Yeah.
So that's 2
So
items.
I would go sockless, I think.
Okay, so you got a spare item.
My Buxton water bottle that I carried.
So no watch.
No, you don't need a watch. Yeah, don't need a watch.
So one Buxton water bottle, budgie smugglers. This is some
smugglers.
like brand.
Budgie smugglers.
So Buxton, budgie smugglers, and your shoes.
And a pair of shoes. Yeah.
Fair. I think that's quite a fast combo.
Yeah, I reckon I'll be quick.
Fair. Well, tune in April 2025 London Marathon.
I might do New York in November. So.
Oh my God, we're there.
Oh yeah,
We're all there.
Cheering you on
Yeah, I might come out and do that
in some pants.
in some budgie smugglers and some non-sock.
They do some pretty garish colourways, don't they?
Yeah,
Nice.
I reckon I could get a
Fantastic.
good partnership with
Let's get some
budgie
runner
smugglers.
budgie smugglers.
Yeah, we'll make you some runner.
If you make me some runner budgie smugglers, I'll wear them.
Is that a deal?
Yeah,
Are you sure you want to agree to this? We are recording.
yeah. Go on then.
Well, there we are. What a fantastic end to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on and telling us about your journey and everything you're doing. How can people join you for your run club?
If you just go on to literally BTND on, I think we're just Instagram at the moment, but we will go across other platforms. But BTND on Instagram, and we do like a weekly upload of where the run clubs will be and what events are on. So we normally have quite a large number of cool events. The other week we partnered with Weber, which is like a big barbecue, and we did like a massive barbecue event, which was really cool. So yeah, stay tuned and we'll put loads of events on for you and try and make it a nice welcoming place and come and move your body and meet some cool people.
Amazing. Well, we can't wait to stay tuned and see you take over the world and break some world records in Hyrox in 5-10 years.
Hopefully. Thank
Amazing.
you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Runner. If you want to train for any running goal, please download the app and don't forget you can use the code Runna Podcast for a 2-week free trial.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, follow, do all of that nonsense, and we'll be back here next week. And if you want to be featured, send us your embarrassing running story. Either send us a voice note on Instagram or send us an email to podcast at runner.com so that we can have a good laugh at your expense in Runner HQ and share it on one of the next episodes.